Hey, how you doing? Last week we took a look at Hitman 3 with Perceptual Boost in Special K. Today, we're going to look at that same Perceptual Boost feature, but in Solasta instead. Solasta is a CRPG where you can take up to 4 characters on adventures using the Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition rule set. Alright, so I want to show you the difference between Perceptual Boost and what my monitor is reporting. And because this is DirectX 11, you get the adaptive tone mapping, which uses your display's capabilities. Although, I think, as far as I know, it assumes what a 10% window is versus a 100% window. It's already set. Great. It's actually working correctly this time. And this one is already set. Oh my god, it's working this time. So I'm gonna set this to the highest for now, but it never looks that good. So let me set it to something reasonable on my display. Like 760 looks good, 250 here. Or I can set it down to the 603 that's reported. That is guaranteed to look good. If it reports 603 to Windows, let's just do it there and leave it at about 250 here. And then this adaptive tone mapping should be better. I can never really tell any difference with it on or off. And I don't know what this is, this remastering stuff, but it requires a game restart, so who cares? There's this new information that's being showed in this experimental section here, and you can see different areas of light and color that are shown on the screen. Hang on, I should have reshade on this. How do you do reshade? I thought it was a home key. Okay, well, reshade's not working right now, but I had reshade doing ray tracing, and it's not on here. Great. It would make the grass look so much better. Actually, it kind of make it look weird, but all the grass should have shadows. Okay, so the point right now is that I want to talk about how this looks and works and everything. So if you see here, we got HDRs on. I wish I could talk to somebody and you'd get a screenshot of it, but it looks like it's kind of later in the day at this point. And if I talk to anybody, they don't get into a conversation where you can see the characters. Normally, you can see them up close like this. And you can see some specular highlights right now, but this isn't the one that I would set. If we go to the Perceptual Boost one, you get it. See, it has way more contrast. Mine is brighter overall because probably because I'm raising the paper white, but the Perceptual Boost one looks more true to SDR. And then also on top of that, it has these specular highlights like you're seeing on this guy's wand. That does look really cool. I must have cast something on there earlier, and that's why you can see it. At least it provides us something bright. See if I can turn the camera. The turning the camera in this game, I think, is different than other games. So I have to hold right click to turn it instead of middle click, and middle click moves it instead of right click. I think this is backward from what I'm used to in other CRPGs. So I'm showing you the difference between these two. You can see over here. I want to look at his face because his is like blowing out. It's not really, but yeah, it definitely is too white on my view. And this just looks more natural. If you can see the difference from 2 and 1 and 2 and 1, 2 and 1. I feel like I'm at the eye doctor. 2 or 1. Yeah, see, because it brightens up everything with the paper white, it doesn't look as nice. Everything has got this white sheen on it of brightness. Now, it still looks good because it's brighter, but it doesn't look as good as this where you get that natural SDR coloring. I don't know how they figured all this information out, but if you look over here, you can see this red blotch. I have no clue what any of this stuff means. I wish I did. I don't know. I'm looking at this. I don't know. There's an area in the dark, but it doesn't have any specular highlights. These get pretty bright when you do that, but it's not really anything to look at. So the whole point I was going to tell you is that there are some downsides to this new Perceptual Boost method. Let me show you something else too. This one I had to turn on the bypass sRGB gamma, because if I don't do that, everything's too dark. All the 2D, everything is too dark. It looks darker than the SDR. So SDR would look like, I think it's always the second preset here. When you hit 2, it's this one. This is SDR mode. And if I turn this off, you can see that everything's darker than it would normally be in the game. And so I had to turn this on to get the normal brightness that the game would have. And then when you turn on HDR with the Perceptual Boost, you get this. And when you turn on the HDR that you would normally have, you get it even brighter, but it's like not correct. It's too bright. It looks nice though. I really like how bright it is. It looks like the sun's really reflecting off of them. But this one adds just a bit of contrast there and it looks so much better, even though the peak white luminance level is so much lower. The Perceptual Boost makes it look like it's brighter. And it really is. If we measured this, we're going to see a difference here. Let me take some screenshots here. You can't see me doing it, but I'm doing it in the background. I'm hitting the hotkey for the Windows game bar and it's not showing up. Oh, now it's doing it. Okay, let me change this HDR preset. Hit the Windows game bar. No. Can I click anything that makes the game do something? Oh, it's so dark now. Okay. Take a screenshot. Right, I got him. Now we can go look at those. The things I want to talk about though in this mode. So let me close this and we can just run around and see what it looks like. I don't want to give away any spoilers for this expansion. Water has some specular highlights. That looks so neat, but there shouldn't be anything reflecting here. This is why I like the ray trace lighting better. You probably wouldn't be getting specular highlights in the dark part of the water. You would only get it in the light part of the water. It's just how this works. Oh, is this leaving the map? Okay, well, then we're gonna go in here. I guess I can, yeah, I can't really go anywhere except for this cave I was in earlier. Okay, well, we'll just talk about it. So in SDR, you can normally bump the backlight brightness. This is one of the reasons people don't like HDR, because in HDR, what you've probably seen is that everything is darker in the SDR space. And you were seeing even the difference when I was showing you my HDR settings through Special K versus the HDR settings that the Perceptual Boost uses, and you can see that there's a big difference there. Is this a trap? Oh, that used my thieves tools though. Oh my god. Where am I going? Can I push this? Oh, dude, I'm pretty sure he's the mage. Yeah, he's a sorcerer. Okay, well, This is a very strong sorcerer. Cool. Maybe I should close the game when I go to talk about this, because I'm completely not focused. I don't even know what I'm doing. I just looted a bunch of stuff. I had no clue it was there. Okay, I'm gonna save it and just talk about things at the Windows screen. Or maybe I can leave the game like this so you can see something that looks neat. But I'm gonna put him back at camp while I'm doing that. So it looks nicer up here. The sunlight. I think this shows the, wow. Whew. Those shadows. Can I make that stop happening? I think purple's all SDR. So all this purple here would be very dark. I don't know what I was talking about. Forget it. I was gonna show it visually and then I got lost. I want to see stuff that's outside of the SDR range. I think it's this exposure one. I think this, anything SDR is grayscale right now, and anything HDR is not. But this is, yeah, this could be HDR. I mean, there's, from the reflections off of that are lighting this up. It could be. I'm not sure, actually. This is showing colors outside of the Rec 709 range, right? And this is everything Rec 709. Yeah, it's all of it, I think. I wanted to show you something, but then I did it, and I realized I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm not sure what it does. I would be interested if I went to a dark area. If I move my camera, yeah, it is changing. All the green is gone. Wow. So you can see differences. Okay, there we go. And then this red stuff is changing, too. I have no clue what the red stuff is. I'm assuming this is the brightness levels. So there, yeah, this part of the screen is dark here. This part is light. So this is like the whole screen, and where the brightness levels are on your screen and right now where it displays. And then this gradation here, the red, I don't know what the red versus the black is, but notice as I go into this scene, you get more red. And if I go into this scene, you get more black. I don't know what that means, but it's there. If I go over here, let's see, this is a little bit brighter over here. Yeah, you can see, this should be like a luminance graph, but I don't know what it means. But I can see it's dark here, and it's dark here on the screen. It's bright here, and it's bright here on the screen. So this is definitely looking like a luminance representation of the game. Yeah, and then this is a colors space representation, essentially this thing right here. The problem was I don't understand how this maps to it, because I don't know if it's mapping to this triangle here or if it's mapping to a three-dimensional view of this. I'm not sure. I can't tell based on what I'm seeing. And another thing about Special K is, like, you can't do HDR in DirectX 9 games, so you're stuck with DirectX 10 or higher, and then it doesn't work in Vulkan either, which is kind of sucky, because if you could do it in Vulkan, you don't need to get it working in DirectX 9. You could use DXVA, which is what Proton is using for the Steam Deck. That's what Valve is using with Proton to get DirectX 9 to work in Linux, is through Proton using DXVA, which works in Windows. And if I tried it, I did try it, it works in Windows, and it can let older games work better in Windows than they used to without any configuration. But native DX9 games tend to work just fine too. The thing is, if you add that DXVA DLL in your game file folder, those games are most likely never going to get HDR support. But then if Special K does support Vulkan, then you can use HDR with those games as long as Special K does support Vulkan. So that's another way to get. As far as I know, Auto HDR does not support Vulkan either, but I'm not sure, actually. That's a good question. Because if it does support Vulkan, you can at least get HDR working in Windows by adding the DXVA DLL to your DirectX 9 games directory. Then it would work just fine. But I'm pretty sure Windows doesn't support that. I actually don't know what triggers Auto HDR to work. I know you have to have HDR enabled in Windows for it to work. But after that, I really am not sure what it uses to determine if it can get on and off, because it doesn't work in the Ascent. That's a DirectX 12 game, but Special K does. So I'm not really sure. Maybe it's only DirectX 10 and 11 games that it turns on Auto HDR. That would make a lot of sense if that was the case. So if it's only those games, then it's basically only supporting the ones that Special K natively supports, but Special K does support DirectX 12 as well, which is nice. Now, you're supposed to be able to get HDR in DirectX 9 games with DG Voodoo, but it's like really old DirectX 9 games. It doesn't work in newer DirectX 9 games like Towerfall. I've tried that. It just won't load the game at that point, because the DG Voodoo outputting isn't compatible with Towerfall. So it has to be like a really old game. And I don't even know how old I'm trying to say here, but it's back when they were coding for the graphic card directly, I think. I don't know. It has glide stuff in there. It's like really old stuff that it's outputting with that. So I don't know what games DG Voodoo is really supposed to be for when they're talking about DirectX 9. I did try to get it working in Nox. You probably never heard of Nox, but it's an old game. It's one of my favorites for multiplayer, especially with friends. You get a bunch of people over, you do a LAN party, do some Nox. It's a lot of fun. But that game, the HDR doesn't look very good because it's a 2D pre-rendered game it had 3D graphics as far as I know, but I'm pretty sure it's pre-rendered. Now the lighting engine in there is something that would be nice with Special K, but in general the game's kind of awkward. There's a guy who's working on OpenNox, which is a rewrite of the render pipeline for Nox. I don't know how he did it, but this is something I've always wanted, and he converted it to OpenGL, which means it can now natively support HDR through Special K, because Special K does support OpenGL. That's really cool. I don't know why it doesn't support Vulkan, which is, as far as I know, OpenGL, next level, but okay. I mean, I don't know all the stuff involved. I'm not saying like the creator doesn't know what he's doing or anything. it's fundamentally different. Vulkan is closer to DirectX 12, if anything, and these are very low-level APIs, very low-level graphics APIs, and that's why it's hard to get access to these features. DirectX 11, there was a space that was the color outputting space, and that's how you get access to it. In DirectX 12, I'm making stuff up here, okay? I really don't 100% know, but I know that there is a fixed space of functions that you could get access to in DirectX 11, where you cannot do that in DirectX 12 or Vulkan, because you got to essentially write it yourself or use a library or something like that. But then Special K doesn't know what to do to add HDR. In DirectX 11 and 10, I guess, what it does is it's changing the game to see the color space as 16-bit, and it's then able to output that and tone map it itself, and that's why it's able to work so well in a game like this. So very interesting. Makes me not want to use DirectX 12, but I still like DirectX 12 because you get ray tracing and a bunch of other features. You can do ray tracing in DirectX 11. Oh yeah, I was gonna show you the difference. Yeah, you can see the SDR here. Oh man, that flame is just not so nice. I mean, this is like night and day difference here from HDR and not HDR. Literally night and day. You can even see the brightness change over here when I go over the dark area. So even the dark area looks better. There's more color. You get a little bit more orange from the torch here than you would in SDR. Very interesting. I didn't realize dark areas with light would change that much. Yeah, this is a big difference. It just seems like there's a dull gray over the screen in SDR. Just like I've said in past videos, it does not look as nice. And this is why I value HDR so much. It looks that much better. And even if we go to the one where it was too bright, my version, then it's still, to me, it's still better. I don't want this dull gray. It represents brightness by emulating what it might look like, but here you actually get that real brightness. This is so much better. So this is the new Perceptual Boost feature in Special K. I think it makes a huge difference, and I definitely think now when you start Special K and you enable HDR, you can just leave it at the default settings and it's good to go, as long as you have already configured your displays. I don't know why mine is showing 1680. It's not correct. I'm pretty sure I can't do those values. It does work. Like, I mean, if I go any lower, I can see all the boxes. So if I set this to something like 740, consider saving the clipping point as 2/3 or 1/2 OLED, the value above, to minimize ambient brightness, whatever, ABL, and local dimming problems. Yeah, I don't know, but I will switch this to what Arting said my display is and leave it there. I don't really see any difference here. You might see a difference. I'm not sure. I really don't know what the setting does. Well, no, I'm sorry. I do know what the setting does, but I don't know what it does relative to the game. I'm not seeing any difference with adaptive tone mapping or not. But yeah, it's supposed to keep the average frame light level from exceeding paper white, which is this 85, because that is what SDR is using. But if you raise this, you get no difference. If I turn this off, very slight difference. I want to reset it. Interesting. This doesn't go very high because the peak white, it can't go higher than the peak white, because the paper white is essentially what they're considering the okay, let's read these to see what they do, because all this has changed over time. So the paper white is saying keep 1/2 peak white for ideal dynamic range. Well, it's not half of peak white right now. It's just slightly lower. Higher values will bring out shadow detail, but may wash out game HUDs, which is what I was having in this one here. And then it's saying lower values may correct overexposure in some washed out SDR games. Yes, I have noticed that too, where this one's overexposed. So if I lower the paper white, I get the exposure correct more, but I lose that brightness. I like it being this bright, but I don't want the overexposure. And then this is another thing you can do to boost the mid-gray. So I don't really know if you should touch this mid-gray contrast, but if you bump it up, then you can take the paper white higher, but it's way over. Yeah, it's just too much. Oh, it doesn't look good. It doesn't look good. What if I do this though and I bump this value? You get a little bit more brightness. Yeah, see, I don't know. I don't want to mess with these settings because I really don't know what they do, but I'm just going to say I had this here and I had this about at 0. This is as close as I could get to 0. Oh, hey, it worked this time. Oh yeah, you could type in values. You can hold, what was it, control click? Yeah, you can just type in values. I just never saw that before. And the adaptive tone mapper is still working here, but it shouldn't work because, yeah, it does work still. Maybe, I thought it only worked with Perceptual Boost. Ugh, don't turn it on when you're already doing this. This is what the Perceptual Boost is looking like. It's good. I don't know how this is going to look on your display. I don't know if it's going to tone map it or not. It should tone map it. But if your display has less nits of peak brightness than mine, yeah, it should tone map it down. But if you have more, are you going to see exactly what I'm seeing, or are you going to see something brighter? Because you're going to be losing some brightness if my video doesn't support it. I'm wondering if it's going to like tone map it up in the same way, and if you're going to not see it exactly like I'm seeing it. I'm not sure. Really not sure. I didn't set this video to record in HLG. I put it as PQ. If it was in HLG, I wonder if then you would see it more naturally to what I'm seeing. You would see a relatively similar image, but not absolutely similar. Interesting. Yeah, I'm not sure. Lots of unknowns. Hope you had a good time watching that video. We reviewed Special K with Perceptual Boost in Solasta. I've got at least one more of these videos coming, and that's going to use Special K with Perceptual Boost in a 2D game. Stay tuned, subscribe, and like the video if you actually liked it. Thank you very much. Goodbye.